Welcome to the Edgeworth Echoes podcast. Discovering Edgeworth's town, a hidden gem of Irish history.
Welcome to another episode of the Edgeworth Echoes podcast. This is your host, John. This episode will take a look back at the 2025 Literary Festival, which was held on the 9th, 10th and 11th of May. This year, the Mariah Edgeworth Festival of Literature and Arts embraced a new dimension with the addition of the word movement to its title. As we strive to enhance the festival experience, we are constantly seeking innovative events to draw in more participants for our festival weekend. For 2025, we were thrilled to introduce invigorating yoga classes and workshops, along with a delightful Regency dance class. One of the first events held this year was a talk by Dr. Linda Doyle, Provost of Trinity College Dublin, who spoke to an attentive audience on the history of Trinity College, the way Mariah Edgeworth shaped and influenced education, and the value that was Mariah's work has today.
That brings me to an important point. I'm not a historian, I'm not an expert in Mariah Edgeworth, but I'm hopefully I will have something to say that is of interest to you. But feel free to interrupt if you think that I'm saying anything that's incorrect. So what I thought I would do is I would look at what was happening then and why it's actually completely relevant now in terms of education and in terms of values for the world, and kind of look at that through a Trinity prism. And I feel really, really privileged to be here in a place that has so many amazing Trinity connections. And I was just saying to Sienna, this has to be the first of many visits because there are so many things I think to explore.
In the Mariah Edgeworth Centre, Melissa Shields, a PhD graduate from UCC, was enthralling another audience with her talk on fashion from the time of Mariah Edgeworth. A talk enhanced by costume changes and demonstrations that brought the story to life. Melissa also devoted a class to the making of a Georgian petticoat.
The garment of women's clothing basically remained unchanged. A bit of a shift there. So the first thing that every man, woman and child wore under the hat, next to the skin was a shift or a chemise of linen. So this is a women's shift. You can see it goes just down to under the knee. There's quite a broad, deep neckline, and it's made of linen. Linen was pretty much ubiquitously the undergarment of this time. That's because it's very absorbent and it's very cooling. It absorbs liquid and it evaporates it almost immediately because it's made from the long stem fibers in the flax plant, whereas things like cotton are made from the short fibers that are, teased out of the top on the cotton plant. So its long fibers help to evaporate moisture very quickly. It is actually the only fabric that is stronger when wet than it is when dry, so you can scrub the snot out of it and it'll really take a beating, right? So this is what they changed every single day, and this is what they absolutely scrubbed and laundered.
With these two events, the 2025 Mariah Edgeworth Festival of Literature, Arts and Movement was up and running. Months of planning and organisation had boiled down to one big question: would we get the weather? Every amateur and professional meteorologist had an opinion. Every new day brought anxious looks to the skies, and no other topic seemed to dominate everyday conversation. It was, of course, the one thing that could not be planned for. In the end, our fears were groundless. The weather proceeded to enhance each day's events. Happy people ebbed and flowed through the town, making their way to and from events. In the library and co-works, art was the theme, with Angela Chute, local artist, helping her students through the intricacies and techniques of bringing their visions to life. Shane Crossan, arts officer, opened an exhibition of local artists and co-works, including in his address a quote from the author Ursula Le Guin: "The creative adult is the child who survived," and summed up nicely the efforts of so many in our communities who not only paint but also perform on stage, sing, play music and entertain us. Matt Farrell, our chairman, took a group of enthusiastic guests on a trip to the past on the Heritage Trail walk, which covered local historical sites and the stories of the Edgeworth family, their friends and acquaintances. While creative adults might be children at heart, the Mostyn Players Youth Group showcased the young talent in town with a special show in the Green. Then it was back to co-works and adults showing off their literary skills with the open mic poetry readings organised by the Longford Writers Group. The day came to a close with more local talent on display later in the Green, where Enda Whitney made us laugh with his stories of accents and misunderstandings. Then the local Cultist group took to the stage to entertain us with a selection of musical numbers.
Thanks everybody for coming. It's great to be back in my hometown. In case you don't know me, you're probably lucky not to know me. And if anything offends you that I say here tonight, it's all of your collective faults, because it takes a village to raise a child, and I was raised here. Yeah. So if there's anything that offends you, it's indirectly your own fault. So let's just start with that.
At this point you might be thinking that this was a packed programme that would fill up the weekend, but you would be wrong. This was just day one, 2 days to go. Another glorious sunlit day greeted us on Saturday down at the Mariah Edgeworth Centre, where Charlie Byrne had set up his pop-up bookshop. This was a lovely addition to the festival programme, with a wide variety of books on sale at great value, and a steady stream of customers during the day showed that literary entertainment is still of interest to many. Literary pursuits of a different kind were taking place in the Green, when the poetry and short story workshops were taking place. Facilitated by authors Lanny O'Hanlon, poetry, and Triona Walsh, short story, encouraging the writing talents of the future. Also in the Green, the limber and agile Martha guided her students through the finer points of yoga. Guests browsed wellness stalls and had tarot readings or sat in the sun like human solar panels, soaking up energy. Another type of artistic expression was facilitated by Catherine McEnroe, who introduced her class to the intricacies of Carrick McCross lace making. The art exhibition continued in Corks, with visitors admiring the variety of art on display. To end off the exhibition, Vitor Vicente was capturing the Irish essence and introducing the audience to the art of Harry Kernoff and to his own poetry, which was inspired by that art. A highlight of this event was a guest who brought an original Kernoff painting to the talk. Back at the centre, the storyteller Steve Lally demonstrated his storytelling expertise to his students. Walking around town, one could be forgiven for thinking they had travelled back in time or wandered onto the set of the latest Jane Austen adaptation, or a Mariah Edgeworth adaptation perhaps, as a number of men and women were dressed in ways that would not have seemed out of place to the people of Mariah Edgeworth's time. Then it was time for the Culture Night, where the efforts of all the aspiring writers, entries from 13 different countries, who entered our story and poetry competitions, would be acknowledged by Triona and Lanny, and we would hear these authors read from their own work. Mixed in was a performance from the fabulous Emer Reynolds, who sang some well-known tunes.
So I'm going to read two of my poems, and thank you for asking me to. This is my collection, Landscape of the Body, from Deadlands Press. I was exploring the Maria Edgeworth Centre and looking at the writings up on the wall, her writings, and one of the things she has is women were considered as creatures of emotion, not reason. And, you know, her struggle to write then as a woman. And I would have had a similar struggle, but with a different kind of background. So I'm going to read two poems. And this one is from the collection Salmon Are Standing. The young warrior Fionn didn't mean to steal knowledge. He just burst the blister on the scale of a mythical salmon roasting over the fire, sucked his thumb, and knowledge entered him. More warriors: Setanta, Brian Baru, Sarsfield, Red Hugh, Hugh Dove, Wolfe Tone, Robert Emmett, Daniel O'Connell, Parnell, Father Murphy, Padraig Pearse, Michael Collins, De Valera. Cowboys as well, shooting at ceilings, yelling, "Yee-haw!" Excuse me, short. I wrote short stories before novels, and I miss them, and I'd like to get back to them. And I thought when I was going to read a little piece for you here tonight, I thought, I'll read the prologue to my first book, Snowstorm, because it was the most short story-like bit and the most fun I had in just indulging myself. So I thought I'd do that. So it's set in Inishmore, in the Aran Islands. So, in the summer, the cliff divers come. They line up to leap, fearless, from the temporary diving board. They twist and spin, tumble like inverted fireworks that head not heavenward, but earthbound instead. They launch themselves from a platform extended from the cliff edge. The brave, or foolish, depending on who you talk to, men and women glide through the air one by one, falling with grace and trust into the mouth of the serpent's lair. This cliffside pool is carved from the island's limestone rock, by nature, not man. A rectangular pool. But millennia waves and fierce storms have formed this rectangular pool, witchcraft explained away in former times by stories of a sleeping beast.
The singer and presenter Charlie McGettigan then took time to have conversation with the author Andrea Mara, and we got to listen in. And what a wonderful back and forth this was, and we got a fascinating glimpse into the world of Andrea and her writing. Charlie himself sang a couple of his hits, which got a great reception from the audience, emphasised by their joining in on choruses. Emer then rounded out the evening, and day 2 was done. On the Sunday, from early on, the green was a hive of activity as work took place to set up tables and chairs for the tea party that was taking place later on in the day. Stall owners were also congregating and seeking out their allocated spots so they could set up their stalls and lay out their wares. The sun continued to dazzle us and moods were good, to say the least. Peter Costello, sound engineer and performer, entertained the early arrivals to the green and took a tour around the stalls to let the stall holders tell us a little about what they had on offer. Then the first guests started to arrive and teas began to be served. Meanwhile, in the Mariah Edgeworth Centre, Melissa Shields was transforming some willing pupils into a Regency dance performance troupe, and the demonstration they gave afterwards in the Green was highly proficient and much admired. There were inquiries from others as to where they could learn these dances. Across the river, Martha held her final event of the weekend, a yoga workshop, while the wellness stalls and tarot readings continued, and there was a sound bath for those who wished to participate. The Rose of Tralee is one of Ireland's best known and loved events, and the Longford Rose selected for 2025 is a local lady, Sarah Lee Green, and she was our special guest at the tea party, mingling with the crowd, posing graciously for photographs, and she picked the people who won prizes for their excellent costumes, and it was a tough choice. So many people made such a great effort. Sarah Lee's final contribution to the event was a performance where she sang for the audience. And then it was all over. Stalls were down, bunting, tables and chairs were packed away, everything was tidied and cleaned, and the 2025 Mariah Edgeworth Festival of Literature, Art and Movements came to an end. Some thanks and acknowledgements. To our brilliant facilitators, workshop leaders, speakers, performers and artists, thank you for your enthusiasm, dedication and for enriching our programme with your knowledge and creativity. To our loyal and new visitors, friends and supporters, your presence and participation brought warmth, energy and a strong sense of community to every event. Behind the scenes, we're especially grateful to the members of the CE programme, the lads whose hard work behind the scenes ensured everything was in the right place at the right time. The heavy lifting, set up and quiet graft often go unseen, but never unappreciated. We would also like to express our sincere thanks to our generous local sponsors, C&D Foods, Paul and Vincent, the Railway Lodge, B&B and North Midlands Credit Union. Your continued support is vital and deeply valued. And finally, to our supporters in the wider community, Longford County Council, Longford Tourism, Creative Ireland, the Department of Tourism and Longford Local Community Resources. Thank you for standing by us and helping us bring this festival to life year after year. Heritage Week 2025 is running from the 16th to the 24th of August, and we have two events planned, an open day on the 16th and a visual history on the 19th, so watch out for those. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the Edgeworth Echoes podcast. Thank you again for listening. Please like and share. Until the next time. If you are interested in learning more about the Society and the history they preserve, please visit www.mariahedgeworthcentre.com. You can sign up to our newsletter, book tours, learn about our annual literary festival and read up on some of the remarkable people who have links to our town.
This has been the Edgeworth Echoes podcast, rediscovering history.